The Slitheen are sort of not appearing on this Raxica or whatever the play.
Raxacorico Phalabatorius.
Um, Hello and welcome to another edition of the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. Poll results from our fans. This is me, Michael S. Collins, here with my colleague, Mr. John Arnold.
Hello.
And remember, you can always comment on what the fans thought down below. We love to hear what you think. And always remember, please like and subscribe. Thank you. So this is the fan vote on monsters, or should we say antagonists, because some of them aren't so much monsters as bad people or even misunderstood people. At least that's what I'd be saying if the Zarbi were here, but somebody forgot to vote for them.
I'm sure I voted for them. Damn
Oh,
it. I was robbed.
just bubbling under the top 15 were the Ritons, which is a shame because they'd have been nice to talk about.
Such a good idea. Perfect opponents for Santarans.
They had a great director. the Ogrons, who seem to split people, understandably, and
Yeah.
the Cloister Wraiths.
Yes. Where are we?
Arnold?
Well, I'm here. See, I have them on hand. It's almost like a bit. I love them. Such a great idea. Just that kind of decay of Gallifrey idea. Just personified. Beautiful.
And another one which didn't make the list, but we have a note here from friend Ian Brack. Hello, who says that he would have voted for the Macra, but of course there are no Macra. Point, Mr. Brack.
It's a shame. Otherwise, I think they could have scored quite highly.
Joint 15th place, we have two classic antagonists at complete opposite ends of the scale, one from the 60s, one from the 80s.
Ooh.
That is the Yeti and Shara's Jack.
Oh, I love that Sharon Jack's made it because that is such a good performance, because that's the role that I think Graham Harper wanted to offer to David Bowie, if I'm not mistaken, but Bowie was busy touring, if I think at that point, so he was never going to accept it. But you look at it, Christopher Gable went into, was it Salatine he auditioned for, if I'm not mistaken? So he went in audition for that, but then begged to be allowed to have a go for Sharon Jack. And my God, much as I'm of the opinion that Kaiser Androzani is a really great story, but not particularly good Doctor Who in a lot of ways, he is such a good antagonist. He's got a proper tragic dimension to him. Never plays it so that you directly feel sorry for him. It's a guy who's been made practically a monster by the things that have been done to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he finds a real kind of pathos at the heart of that. And it's such a good performance.
Good, Christopher Gable, that is, at playing characters with so many shades of grey to them. You could recently see him on the Crown Court repeats and Talking Pictures as a probable fraudulent medium, and you can see shades of Shara's Jack in that too. Sort of underlying hints that you're never quite sure where the motivation is. You're aware that in much of Androzani, he is the injured partner, but he's also dealing with the drugs and Stotzi, and he was part of Morgus' group at one. So you know they don't pretend that he's this noble sort of victim. He is as bad as the rest of them. He's just the one that's suffered first.
Also, the costume design is fabulous as well. That mask is wonderful.
When I was about 5, because I think Mum was watching it on a repeat, and it stuck with me over a decade till I actually saw the episodes. So as soon as I saw it, I remembered it instantly. That's how good that design is.
Fabulous. And the Yeti then, who were seen as overly cuddly in their first appearance.
Like fuzzy teddy bears, so they gave them red eyes, so they then looked like fuzzy teddy bears with red eyes.
But fuzzy teddy bears with red eyes being filmed by Douglas Camfield.
Yes.
That plays a huge part. Like, that since we got back the fourth episode with the Covent Garden. See, that's such a good fight scene.
It's one of I genuinely think that's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who because you
Yep.
never see the Doctor and his allies be so utterly defeated. But the good thing is, it's part 4, so you know they're going to actually win in the end, unlike in certain 80s showrunner episodes that I could mention. When I used to go to London as a child, Mornington Crescent was out of business for a long period of time, and my dad told child me that was where the Yetis were hiding after the Web of Fear. So every time you heard the roaring of the trains coming through the other tunnel, I thought that was the Yetis coming to get them.
Station does largely rest on that second appearance, and I know they are just it's almost servants for the master, but they again it's such a striking design. The, just the and I think they really benefit from being out of their comfort zone, should we say? You expect to see almost abominable snowmen as monsters in Tibet. You don't expect to see them on the London Underground. They really get that kind of contrast that makes them work. Almost like, say, seeing them on the loo in Tooting Bec or something.
They look very good in those sets, and those sets look amazing. I think the biggest tragedy about the Yetis is that some idiot decided to F around with the copyright of the writers, meaning that we never got to have them in great again, because you could just imagine them taking on various doctors through the 70s.
Or even they are in the Five Doctors. Or one
Yes.
is anyway.
Well, one is, and a blink and you miss it thing. So
Inexplicably.
blink and you miss it. I missed it repeatedly as a kid. Number 14 is a sign that maybe monster is the wrong description for the unknown in Doctor Who, because the only thing monstrous about this one is what happens to the poor thing. Number 14 is the space pig from Aliens of London.
Hey, oh, again. Oh no, I was fully on board with the new Doctor Who from Rose because it's such a great episode. I understand someone's written a book about it, which is available from all good obvious books websites. But it's gorgeous. It's that thing, the first alien contact of official alien contact of Earth. Doctor Who. So, again, the Yeti on the Lewin Tooting Bec effect. What you're going to see for this big alien? It's a pig in a suit.
Yes.
And you watch, and then it gets shot, and it's the way Christopher Eccleston breaks your heart
Yes.
when it and Russell Tears together. Just that everything's important, life is important. It gives a weight to kind of all the death and destruction that Russell T Davies is really fond of.
Thing that sums it up for me is somebody I knew at university afterwards saying that when it showed up, they wanted to laugh at how bad the effect was, assuming it was an alien, and just like seconds later, they wound up crying over the face of the poor pig.
And then, of course, the point is, it is a bad effect because it's the real villains on that.
Number 13 is a one-hit wonder from the 80s that I'm sure many of us would like to return to. A great, cheap, but fantastic horror idea. And that is the Raston Warrior robot.
Oh, that does surprise me. But if we watched the Five Doctors on the weekend because Eddie said it was a Five Doctors evening. I'm not going to contradict him on that because let's face it, how many better ways are there of spending an evening than watching the Five Doctors? One sequence, but it's such a beautiful idea. It's just something that's too fast for the Sidemen. That's just so fearsome. It can knock a whole squadron off of them in various violent ways without literally blinking. Or, it's the original Don't Blink.
Funny that, because my old theory on Twitter, which people loved, which I may yet make canon one day, is that the Rustin Warrior robot was built to fight the Weeping Angels into each other so well.
I like that.
And it was brought in as an emergency because he needed one more bit of jeopardy. And Uncle Terry got his joke in because he didn't like the Tower Men. So he killed a lot of them. But for
Enormously satisfying.
for a make do solution, it's one of the best in Doctor Who, possibly since Fang Rock, which was also by Terry a few years earlier. Number 12, The Empty Child.
This was the playground moment of New Who, wasn't it? The first thing. Everyone knew on Monday, are you my mummy? Give them something to say, strong idea, something. It's a game you could play on the playground, or literally. First Stephen Moffat thing of he doesn't like to kill people at all, and in fact, I think this has almost got an anti-casualty rate, as with the Richard Wilson gag at the end about the legs. It's a monster; it could kill you, and yet the Doctor finds a way to redeem it. That undercuts a lot of what you expect from Doctor Who as pulp science fiction. They simply, I know it follows on from the Dalek in Dalek. It's absolutely perfect, and that ending, it's just an absolute joy from start to finish.
Number 11, Sontarans.
That low?
Yes.
Good Lord. I think what everyone forgets about the Sontarans is that they're funny, and that is what, I think, is the thing Chris Chibnall got most right about Doctor Who. They are a bunch of militaristic buffoons who think they're better than they are. They have that big, huge ego. The Time Warrior is brilliant. It's just got, Lynx is such a grumpy sod. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's just wants to get off this planet, but they keep asking me to do stuff.
I think one of the issues with the Sontarans is if you'd asked me 15 years ago, I'd have said they were one of the most overrated monsters because the Time Warrior's excellent. Lynx, you won't hear me say a bad word about him, but they're kind of mediocre henchmen in all their other stories up to RTD bringing them back. And it wasn't for me until the recurring character of the grumpy, half suicidal, will fight Glaswegians in a Victorian pub den. Max was in about half a dozen episodes that I really got to appreciate the sort of whole ethos and ideas of the Sontarans. Right, for all the criticism that Chris Chibnall gets, the Sontarans in Flux were brilliant.
I loved you. I wanted to ride a horse.
Yes.
That's the best gag of the era. It's genius. I genuinely fell over laughing at that one. But Dan Starkey for taking the material and absolutely running with it. He is so good. His comic timing is beautiful. And apparently, a lot of the suggestions, about him, I think Strax calling Clara boy, etc. A lot of them came from him, if I'm not mistaken. So he's really, he's really good. And yeah, I think the last decade's been really good for them, and that's mainly because of Dan Starkey.
Also, I've now met a Doctor Who monster because the leader of the Sontarans in Flux is Scottish comedy actor and comedian Jonathan Watson, who I saw perform his stage thing in 2003, shortly after Bob died, when some friends got me out of the house to go and watch him. Funny fact, it was actually sold out, but we bumped into the man himself in the foyer. He went, "You here for the show?" Yeah, but there's no tickets. Oh, come with me. And I wound up watching his live act sitting next to his elderly parents.
I hope you behaved yourself.
Number 10, the Sea Devils.
Yeah, they've only got three. They've got three stories, and two of them really aren't very good.
Yes.
Justice for the Merca. Why isn't the Merca higher on this list?
Mm.
Quite sympathetic monsters. They are not just out and out representations of evil or some foe, some foreign country or anything. They lost their planet, and then they, particularly in the original story, they were betrayed by the master again.
Their popularity is a lot based on how great that six-parter is from the Pertwee era.
Absolutely.
And one of the great things about it is primarily the thing that's promoting both the humans and the Sea Devils, or the Master for a second. He's just been like it as usual. But the two main races, they're scared of the other ones. That's what the original. They're lashing out of fear, and that just leads to tragedy. But I think when you take that added aspect, that it's the only thing that you've got to fear is fear itself, and that dooms them. That gives it an added pathos of its own. Doctor Who tries its best to ruin in Warriors of the Deep.
Yes.
I think if you sum up Warriors of the Deep when he goes, there should have been another way, and that's what they're saying about the whole previous 90 minutes. But it's just a shame that no one bar their creator, who's been dead for nearly 50 years, could actually write them. Number 9 is nightmare fuel from my childhood. It is the Autons.
Oh, frankly, they deserve to be in here for the reprint cover of Terror of the Autons alone. That I know that there are grown men walking around who have nightmares about that. Frankly, genuinely horrifying octopus with one huge eye. Oh,
Yes.
but they are such a great idea for a monster. It's Rob Holmes. What's terrifying? Plastic is becoming so big. So many things are being made out of plastic. It's in that Doom Watch kind of
Yes.
vibe.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I know Doom Watch did the plastic eaters, which was they decay. It was a virus, if I remember. It's making the ordinary strange. What I think it's a brilliant guy on Twitter called David Southwell called rewilding. It makes you look at it's something you just have a quick glance at and so then you look twice at it, and that's what the Autons do, and that's why they're brilliant. That's why that famous scene on Ealing Broadway High Street, I think, works so well. You never see the window smashing; it's done in all the reaction shots, and you don't see the shot that he's actually coming up. You just see them walking down the road, and it's oh my god.
I saw that shot in 30 Years in the TARDIS, the compilation documentary in 1993, and I then realised why they called it Behind the Sofa, because I was practically levitating to Mars to get away from them. It didn't help that in one of these ones they had a sketch at the end where Nick Courtney got into a car and the driver was an
Yes.
Auton.
They work as a cartoon villain in Terror as well, with the big daffodil man with the big head.
Mm-hmm.
That's genius. Relaunching the show, and Russell T really smartly doesn't bring the big hitters like Daleks and Cybermen until later. They're a perfect adversary to relaunch the show because of that affinity with plastic, because of what you can do for them, because it's still so relevant in 2005.
I mean, I wouldn't watch Spearhead until I was 13 when it was shown on BBC One. And I didn't watch Terror until I was about 18, at which point I thought I was cool and collected and, I could watch these Autons and I knew most of the big scares and I was fine with it. And then you opened up a safe and one jumps out at you, which I didn't see coming. Although I was recently reading Robert Holmes' interview back from the 80s, and he mentioned how they are called the Autons because they are the autonomous part of the nest. And I just thought, why have I never twigged this? It's so
Yeah,
obvious.
I found
Now
the
I've seen
easiest
it written
one with
down.
that. It's because it's just in that it's auto plastics. So auto. And
No,
then
it's
of
because
course it is part of the structure of the thing. And
yeah,
the consciousness is
yeah,
consciousness. Oh.
terrifying nightmare fuel, and I can confirm that because I had many nightmares about them. A child. Number 8 is the villain from a pair of stories that I know that John loves. It is the Mara.
Oh, fantastic. Again, it's the snake is an idea of fear. I know Michael is quite down with that. I think, have you seen the revised special effect version?
No.
Conceptual monster for the most part, which I think Paul Cornell suggested back in the 90s. Maybe it's meant not to be quite so fierce and a bit disappointing when you do see it. The iconic Target book covers. I love that. The Medusa obviously it's meant to be Musa, and the big snake with the planet in its jaws. Absolutely beautiful piece of art.
Yes.
I know Michael would love it on his wall.
Snake Dance has always struggled for me next to the absolute brilliance of Kinder, but I do love the little sly thing they have about how all the kids are playing with the Mara toys. It's meant to be this great evil and it's been reduced to merchandise.
Yes, that's the whole. It's Doctor Who's anniversary. They're doing, something from the past in every story, and it's an anti-anniversary story. It almost undermines the Jubilee stuff in Mordrin before as well. You're celebrating the Queen and everything. Nope, when you look at that, primal fears reduced to kids' toys and fears. That's what you do if you defeat a monster, isn't it? When a monster defeated, or like a bully defeated, isn't so scary. So you just
Yeah,
point an arm.
version of a wall.
Yes.
Number 7 is Clockwork Men.
Gorgeous piece of design that is. What a brilliant idea. A clockwork robot for an 18th century story. Ideal. And then the style of it to be in that kind of also the Baroque French, pre-revolutionary, opulent thing. It almost feels how should I put it? Decadent. The design is almost decadent.
Yes.
And and they again they look evil with the kind of the way the eyes are and the expressions on the masks. They're such a well motivated monster. They're not doing anything they see as monstrous, as evil. All they're doing is looking for parts to repair the ship. They're essentially a bunch of mechanics. Brilliant idea, perfect design.
Number 6, my mum's favourites. He remembers them very well from their debut when she was a young girl, and that is the Ice Warriors.
It's they're one of these I always struggled at first to see how they got their reputation, because certainly I'd argue their debut story and their fourth story, as Michael well knows, aren't my particular favourites of the era. I think they're among the weak of the era, but yeah, they're a great design. That big green armor and the blank eyes, and then you've just got the hint of the lizard underneath. Cold War eventually made a mistake on them because I don't.
Yeah.
I think they're far stronger when they're in the armor. You don't seem to be the vulnerability. I think the reputation of theirs is remade probably by the Curse of Paladin,
Yes.
where they're the one of the few to switch so that they're through that story they're able to play on that. Are they actually on your side or aren't they? So it's a really nice element of the story they can use there. It's a really clever one. In an Uncle Terry script-edited story, funnily enough.
You're unsure of how their reputation built. I suggest it's 3 things. 1, the lead Beast Lord warrior is usually someone who can carry a good line. Alan Benyon and Bernard Bresslaw.
Absolutely.
2, they're not stereotype monsters. They will react to a situation, and sometimes they're on the doctor's side. And 3, I think, in terms of the child audience at the time, how well booked as they say they were in the show, how often do you see that one ice warrior alone is enough to take out an entire opposition? In the Seeds of Death, uh,
Yeah,
single ice warrior takes over most of England, pretty much.
yeah,
Uh,
they do play even in Monster. They do play on that physicality a lot.
yeah.
Legacy, Gary Russell's book as well, and
Mhm.
all that background fiction of theirs. God Engine, Craig Hinton as the late great Craig Hinton.
Uh,
It's all absolutely beautifully sort of built up around, essentially big green monsters. I think it's sometimes there's an issue where they speak slow, so they do slow things down. I think clever writers can play into that,
yes.
but then sometimes you get the monster of Paladin.
Well, I think Trish's son has done her proud here, although she would tell me right now that they should be higher.
Absolutely.
Number five is one of the legends of Doctor Who. It is, well, I suppose he's better known as the Master.
And you will obey him. We're talking all the incarnations here,
Oh,
yes?
splendid chaps, all of them,
None of
and
them.
her.
Give that straight to Roger Delgado. And Roger Delgado, from that first scene, he owns that. He has that presence, that charisma. Just that, he comes out and you're going, this guy's a badass.
It's always cliche to say that he was born to play the role, but he actually was born to play the role because Ari Letts in Turn 6 said, write a role for Roger Delgado.
Totally. And he got it so right. What he's bringing out, which I think gets lost maybe with particularly the Alien incarnation, is he's got such a nice line understated comedy. Just the clangers, the continued frustration with the Doctor, and I tell you what, I know that the Time Monster is wrongly not beloved of many people. I adore the Time Monster. It's complete chaos, but it's fun. It's Roger Delgado's story. It's Roger Delgado is the protagonist in that story, and he shows you how he could carry the series in that. You could give him a series, and I would watch the hell out of it, even though I'm going round blowing up the universe and have to end up like Homer Simpson dope at the end.
And where he gets out of being at a table with the Brigadier because he says he's always been an avowed pacifist.
Yes, it's gorgeously. You can always see his eyes lighting
Yes.
up at that line. It's
Good. The interaction between him and John Pertwee is sort of, that they both oppose each other because of what they are. But you do know that if only the other would just be a bit more pragmatic to the other's aims, they would get on so well.
They just compromise a little, come round to
Yes.
yeah, totally. I'd bypass the crispy masters because they are always cackling villains to a certain degree. That Ainley one, I did a story for an anthology called Masterpieces, and they had a gap for an Anthony Ainley master story, and I found it really hard to get into what makes the Ainley master tick, and you go, he doesn't care about anything except giving the Doctor a kick in, does he?
Yes.
That's it. That's his sole motivation.
It weirdly in the Five Doctors where he wants to help and he gets screwed over for it repeatedly.
That's beautifully beautiful, isn't it? If I can't help you, sod ya.
I cannot speak badly against the Anthony Ainley master because that is nostalgia for me. He is the master of my childhood.
Well, yes, mine too. Theoretically,
uh,
as
and
well known in the context. All right, I was there for Legopolis. That was one of my
yes,
probably the one that I first became a fan.
uh, although he is the master for the 80s because they're a lot grimmer story wise. So they have a grimmer master who will massacre half the universe. Uh,
But he also does play things quite over the top and camply at times.
Although there is a famous story from, I think it's Planet of Fire, where visitors said that they saw the first take, and it was Anthony Ainley giving this terrifyingly straight performance, and then the word came from the production that he was playing it he had to master it up. So he went back to his standard "mo ha ha ha," and that's the take that got kept.
Blimey, that's unreal.
Uh,
And then we move to this chap.
yes.
Again, I adore it for being a kind. There's no subtlety to it. It's just again a big villain, but
Mhm.
it's fun. There's reason I like to dress for the occasion.
I'll say that he's one of the better parts in a flawed movie.
It's not a very good piece of Doctor Who. It's not that great a piece of television either.
No, and then of course Derek Jacobi came back. That was
For 5 minutes.
oh, what a great 5 minutes it was.
5 minutes and several Big Finish box sets, of
Yes,
course, I should say.
has been played by John Sim, Michelle Gomez, and most recently Dewan. And I think all of the actors that have played the role multiple times have brought something to the character, even if the scripting hasn't always done the job for the characters.
Particularly John Sim and Sash Dewan, there maybe hasn't been any kind of depth given to the Master's motivations on that. It's just, I don't like the Doctor. I'm going to get him, and it's they play this big, over the top version of him. But then again, my favorite John Sim Master story is also my favorite Missy story. Funnily enough, World of the Time the Doctor Falls, which I think is quite arguably, and I wouldn't go too far off it, is probably Stephen Moffat's masterpiece. I think Missy she's by so means the best articulation of the Master in the new series with Capaldi. There's that tension there of a possible, can one of them redeem the other to their viewpoint? He said that Dark Water, Death in Heaven, I gave you an army.
Yes.
How? And then by the end of the Doctor Falls, it's I'm going to stand with him, and it's
Yes.
just like, and it's so other, and obviously, I love the metaphor of John Sims' Master, meaning the Master can't let themselves stand with the Doctor, can't let them have that viewpoint, can't you can't ruin them as a villain forever, and that kind of undermined the Dewan thing for me, because it's such a whiplash going
Yes.
the from that kind of redemption, that nuanced, complex performance, just to a standard Master. Again, Saskatchewan doesn't have much to play with.
Yes.
That reveal scene in Spyfall is beautifully played. Just a
And
little grin as he comes in.
the tragedy of the Doctor Falls is that the Doctor will never know that he actually got through to the Master or Missy. Because
Yes,
number 4, Bygones.
did always baffle me why they didn't come back more, why they wouldn't use more, because you can do them fairly cheaply. Because of the shape changing ability, you don't need many effects. You don't need to hold the costumes out too many times, and they were really well done in the Doctor Who magazine strip of the time, particularly the backup strips. It's such a striking design as well. I know it's based on a fetus, but that oversized head, it's not quite a human design. It's just off human. It's kind of not quite uncanny valley, but then, as with all the best monsters, a pathos to the backstory. And Stephen
Um,
Moffat brings them back in for the big 50th
yeah,
anniversary, and again they're perfect for it.
they come back like they've never left.
Yes,
And they should
in
never have left. That's the thing.
the Zargon invasion, such a cleverly done story on that front.
I always thought they were good in the classic series, and I'm glad that unlike certain unfortunate deaths from the sea, they've been treated with great respect and treat in the new series too. Number 3 is one that we had never heard of 17 years ago. Bet you couldn't imagine the show without them. It's Weeping Angels.
I think you could just have to say, whatever your thoughts on them, they've become the iconic monster of the revival. They have to go, bloody hell, they were terrifying. And
Yeah,
again, they can get you when you're not looking. And again, it's with the Stephen Moffat monsters, they almost all come from that simple idea. The sinister kid, the Bastinarada, the shadows that you can't see. And this, it's to say, again, you'll see enough statues in town centres or that
yes.
you'll go, writer Steve Moffat, because again, I think he's basically 12 years old, isn't he?
I
12.
think it's such a great piece of horror that's masquerading as a Doctor Who story. And they got brought back in Time of Angels, sort of expanded upon, but it still worked. And that kind of turned them into series regulars. I think they're almost bomb-proof. So you bring back the Weeping Angels, and the tension immediately builds up, and people don't come back going, "Oh, another Weeping Angel episode." They're invested in these monsters.
That's when they came back, and the image of the flaming angel there, you could expand them still. There's room to do so much with them.
Very few people have created a monster. Doctor Who. Teddy Nation did it. Kit Pedler did it. Barry Letts and Uncle Eddie did it with the Master. And you could say that Bob Holmes did it with the Suntarans. But Stephen Moffat absolutely did it with the Weeping Angels.
Nailed it. Totally.
Runner up, number 2, was actually 80 points ahead of third place. My favourite.
I don't know what you could mean.
Excellent. It's the Cybermen.
Excellent.
Yes.
They are essentially a horror concept. And as I say, the thing with all the great Doctor Who monsters, there's a pathos at the heart. There's not just these are black and white villains. It's a dying race, or two dying races, or whatever. Or as Stephen Moffat suggested later on, many more than one dying race. They're more than an idea, which almost makes them more terrifying. It's a race that was dying, and they replaced themselves. It's a thoughtless progress of technology, and you end up with the Cybermen. And again, that first design is brilliant. It's still my favourite Cybermen design. Good taste there, Mr. Capaldi. It's a cloth, but there's still a humanity to them. There's still that human nose under that face. You can see that hands are still there. I don't think they're used particularly well through the rest of the classic series, because they suddenly develop weaknesses to suit the story, gold, radiation, whatever. And I'm not even sure that they get used that well in the Russell T Davies era, because they are the big stompy monster.
Yeah.
So, but again, you give them to Stephen Moffat, and they become something quite brilliant. It makes this. It takes the Cybermen to the logical end. It brings that kind of idea that the Borg had in Star Trek from them. It's that they are technology that they would multiply. They would find a way to adjust to things. All different time the Doctor falls, because they multiply. They become invincible. They are unstoppable. The idea of the Cybermen is unstoppable.
They've got the best debut, coming through the snow, and then the slow pan up to see the former human face. And then soon after that, they appear in the greatest Doctor Who story of all time. I wouldn't. Well, actually, I am told that was heavily underrated by people who haven't seen it.
The direction of what we got is lovely. I really want to see that.
I am repeatedly told by folk from the 60s that there were a lot of terrifying moments in the missing episodes. No, I am, of course, referring to a base on the moon. But the great thing about the Cybermen is that, from their perspective, they're the heroes of any tale.
Yes.
They want to save people. They'll become like them, and therefore they are saved. They are the rescuing hero. What is unfathomable to us is them attempting to be nice.
I was going to say they're the equivalent of the guys in the town centres with the leaflets. Then trying to.
To the number one, runaway number one on this list.
I wonder what that could be.
You will be not shocked to hear that number one was, of course, the Taran Wood Beast.
Yeah. Yes.
Number one was, of course, the Daleks.
Who?
Yes.
We probably would not be here today talking about this, if talking about Doctor Who, if it wasn't for the Daleks. They're quite simply, a brilliant right idea at the right time. They as Terry Nation puts it, they are the Nazis. So they started off as this metaphor for an opposing force, a totalitarian fascist force. And again, they work brilliantly as that, particularly in that debut story against the Thals. But what makes them magic is that design. It's the fact they aren't human. It's I know it's said that very down went, well, sorry, we've got a bug-eyed monster here. They're not bug-eyed monsters in that sense at all. They're such a gorgeous design because they don't look human. They're miniature tanks. They're scary. And yes, you do want to see them when they come on screen because they're such a fascinating idea. Again, the first aliens you see invade Earth.
Yes.
And they work so as that invasion of the uncanny into the ordinary. And it's whatever we say, 2150, 2164, it's really, contemporary Earth you're seeing them in. It's not a remove.
They're so brilliantly Machiavellian at their best. Master Plan, Russell T Davies era, Power of the Daleks. That I get pissed off when they're just used as run of the mill robots that kill people.
Even I think Saywood did it to a large degree. You get something like Remembrance, which plays on that Nazi origin and gives them that, makes sense of that kind of factional war that's been going on, that purity. And then obviously this, Rob Shearman's Dalek is gorgeous because he talked to his wife and said what's not scary about the Daleks. Yes. And then he basically proceeded through that episode to go, right, this wasn't scary. It is now.
I've kind of always viewed them as being a bit like Sideshow Bob. They've got art right in their first episode in their city. You could probably have a chat to them if you wanted because they are intelligent thinking teachers. Unfortunately, their intelligence and love of everything is superseded by their first to exterminate everything that isn't them.
No, it's Dalek for the Doctor.
Oh, and well, that concludes our look at your vote on the top Doctor Who monsters. Again, feel free to comment below and like and subscribe. Thank you.